My name's Jen Parniani. I head up the programmatic practice for the US at KINESSO.
And I feel like I tried to build us back up there, and then your song choice just brought us back down again. End of the world.
Well, I believe in transparency and being open and honest about all things, including where we're at with, the world.
And that's exactly where we're going to start. So what I want to begin with then is a grounding conversation of what is the broader state of brand safety, brand trust in this overall issue, right, of transparency. Take us through that a little bit of what you're seeing in the environment today.
Well, I had a client many moons ago who had this saying, a lot of dogs not barking. So basically, just because you can't hear the dog doesn't mean it's not getting ready to bite you in the ass. I liken that to brand safety because we don't know what we don't know, and as the space evolves, as formats get more sophisticated, as cool new things like generative AI and now agentic AI come out, the space is just rapidly evolving. So how we think about brand safety and those challenges and our ability to not only understand but then actually mitigate those risks is getting more and more complicated. So I wouldn't say necessarily that it's like better or worse than it was like 5 or 7 years ago. It's just different, evolving, and we need to be curious and ask questions and try to understand that new space so that we can pivot and learn how to navigate it in different ways.
Yeah, and so yesterday, when we were talking with Barb, right, on stage, it was really rooted in this concept and this overall industry-wide push towards, like, there's an acceleration in the industry. There's lots of change. There's lots of movement. As we think about brand safety, is there a similar feeling of acceleration, that the threats are cropping up more readily or at a faster clip than before?
I think so, definitely. I mean, with generative AI, it's created this opportunity for bad actors to not only create malicious content, deep fakes, that kind of thing at a rapid clip, but it's also fueled the sort of like, infiltration and this invasion of really poor quality inventory, clickbait MFAs, all kinds of things that could be rapidly generated with AI. Really make it much more challenging for the safeguards that we have historically leaned on to be able to respond and protect our campaigns in real time.
So with those changes, has the definition changed at all?
Yeah.
When I say brand safety, is it the same thing now as it was 5 years ago, or?
No, definitely not. Brand safety, first came about as a way to protect your brand, make your brand safe, to keep them away from content that is going to damage the brand reputation or maybe get them sued or, put them in a bad environment or show up on, extremist content or things that are just universally taboo and no-nos. That's evolved. So more recently, and I would say maybe in the past couple years, this has been increasingly so. The concept of brand safety has really been more focused and nuanced around authenticity and brand sentiment. So it's more around, like, of course, like blocking things that you shouldn't be there or that's going to damage your brand, but also much more focus on lining up and aligning with content and environments that are going to give you more opportunities to reach a wider audience in a very authentic way that is true to your brand values.
Feels almost like a positive shift, right? In the sense of, like, it used to be like, ooh, scary brand risk, now more about alignment and about the quality of the match.
I mean, there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of nuance, and I think if you look at it from both angles, also realizing that there's probably a lot of, risk and scary things hiding behind corners and that you should always be asking questions. And yes, you could look at it as, in some ways things have gotten more positive.
Yeah, okay, so you already mentioned a couple of them. You were talking about MFAs, made for advertising sites. You talked a little bit about Gen AI. Can you break those apart a little bit more, though? What are the headwinds to overall transparency and brand safety?
We could start with generative AI. So generative AI, as it's come about, it it does provide a platform for malicious actors to create deep fakes or content that is not real and can damage your brand if you show up adjacent to it. So that has, of course, become increasingly a risk, because we've seen like news probably on a weekly basis of, you know, false content or deep fakes proliferating the internet, and we of course need to keep our brands away from that. For MFAs, so made for advertising websites, everybody in this room understands what this is by now. I think we've all, you know, done the MFA boot camp over the last 12 months, and so a lot of us understand, you know, why that is not bad. You know, having 12 ads on a page is not a good ad experience, and our brand should not be paying the same CPM for that kind of inventory versus the premium inventory that we thought we were buying. So MFAs, of course, are going to continue to be a headwind. I think a lot of solutions have come out to combat that, but there isn't one definition for what an MFA actually is, and so they will consistently evade detection. So remaining to keep on our toes is also going to be, you know, something that is going to need to be top of mind for advertisers when we think about brand safety, is challenging how we're defining that and ensuring that our strategy for staying away from MFAs is actually lining up with what the definition of what an MFA actually is.
That's interesting, because so there's like a hard concrete piece here with like Gen AI, there's the MFA sites themselves, but this definition piece is kind of interesting too. So are you finding that there are mismatched standards across your supply around how to think about the quality of it?
There is. There's a variety of definitions of what poor quality inventory actually is, and so the concept of an MFA is still remains a little bit ambiguous. I would say also we've seen an increase in platforms, social media platforms, taking a more nuanced approach and sort of breaking away from a more standardized definition of brand safety and avoidance to something that is a little bit more nuanced. And so the reason why this is challenging is because it requires time for the advertiser to understand how those policies are different from what they were before and how their brand safety approach for their campaigns needs to change. Not bad, not good, just need to do your homework and understand more changes, and it's going to be different platform to platform, so there's going to be a little bit more work to do there.
Got it. Okay. So you also mentioned, I think you said there was an MFA boot camp that I was not invited to. And there's a chance maybe others in the crowds weren't. So take me through that a little bit. Like what do you look for identifying MFAs? How do you think about that inventory? What are the best practices for mitigating it?
Right. Well, we're going to be having a catch-up session at about 12:30 in the lobby. No. Right. So I think like what we're looking for is, you know, the ad refresh times. You're looking for things that don't quite feel right. The funny thing with MFAs, though, is that they're really good at spoofing some of our, you know, some of our favorite brand safety or brand health or campaign health metrics. My favorite, just kidding, viewability. They're really great at spoofing viewability. They're highly viewable. So, you know, that's really fun.
Yeah, so I'm guessing this ties back a little bit to some of the things you just mentioned, but as I understand it, MFA exposure does vary across your supply chain, your different vendors and your partners. So how should brands and agencies think about pressure testing that? How should they approach that identification?
Yeah, so each platform, each inventory partner and DSP does have a little bit of a different bend on how they are defining low quality inventory and therefore what investments they've made on the back end to help mitigate and prevent that. So that just means that they're looking at things from a little bit of a different lens, and their methodologies and the pipes are just hooked up to do different things. Some of them are really great, let's say, in cutting out you know, inventory that's not sustainable. So if there's, you know, you could have that in one DSP, another DSP could have a different methodology. We have some partners that are really great at just eradicating it altogether. Kudos to them. I can't name drop, but there's a lot of them that do it better than others. So what I would say, what I recommend for buyers and clients in the room is every time you're talking to an inventory partner or a platform, a self-service platform, or a managed service programmatic partner, ask them what their inventory quality processes look like, what steps they take, what third-party verification partners they're actively using, how frequently they're doing an audit of their supply, and what their definitions are. I think that part is really important. If they tell you right off the bat, we don't have any MFA, we're cutting that out completely, ask more questions. I would never take that at face value. I don't think it's possible to get up and say that you've completely eradicated it. But yeah, I feel like that's usually a red flag for me when I hear that.
Totally, 100%. If anyone says they've done 100% of something, raise your eyebrows.
Yes, my kid's brushed his teeth.
So let's turn to some of the levers we can pull and some of the strategies that we have for managing our inventory. Lists, exclusion, inclusion, where are we at with all of that? How should we think about that way, that method of managing your inventory?
Inclusion lists versus exclusion lists, or just maybe things overall that you can do?
I'd like to dive right into the lists themselves. So,
okay.
I think my old days agency side, it was all about exclusion lists. Like that is how we went through and we thought about trust, transparency, and some of those things. Flash forward now, a decade later, from when I started, where are we at with that? How do you think about that approach?
Man, exclusion lists, I kind of think back to like 2016, 2017, the apocalypse, all the, oh no, YouTube, there's this weird monster in the YouTube ads or that kind of thing. It felt like it was a very dark time for ad fraud. There was a lot of misinformation and, fake news and content that was highly unsavory that was being flagged in the biddable space. And so exclusion lists really came about as a reaction to that. So we need to block this. We need to make sure there's no way that we're going to be running on this kind of inventory. A lot of our clients implemented news blocks altogether. So there was this, approach that was effective at blocking it, but there were these sort of inadvertent impacts of exclusionary tactics. So what that does is it can cut out supply in an environment, or whenever you cut out an environment altogether, you're taking away opportunities and quality inventory and opportunities to beyond content that isn't problematic, that is high quality, is that your audiences are engaging with and are absolutely an opportunity to scale and have interactions with additional audiences and in those environments. So I think the other thing is highly exclusionary tactics themselves. So let's say like blocking and block lists. They don't always do a great job at adapting. So when new risks come about, they could be ill-equipped or ill-positioned to actually catch those kinds of threats. So like MFAs, for example, are really good. Actually, really, really, really good case study, if we could talk about MFAs for a bit. MFAs came about in PMPs, right? Like you had a story break where somebody was looking at what they were buying with a nameplate, premier, publisher, PMP, and they discovered that they were buying subdomains within that PMP that were all MFA, but they were paying this premium CPM. That would not have been caught with the block list. It would not have been caught with the third-party blocking that was in place. And so I think the idea of inclusion lists first came about, they've been used for different things, but the way that I think about inclusion lists and the way that we've looked at them for IPG is we thought, well, if we could build a really scalable, high-quality inclusion list that leveraged like multiple third-party ad verification partners. We've been talking to this company, Jones, like they know how to like filter out MFAs, like let's bring them into that story as well. Like, is there a way for us to make sure that every DSP that we're buying out of like has this list implemented and that we can provide an additional safeguard over and above like everything else that we're doing with the platforms and the inventory partners and, the 3 PAV partners. So we started initially using inclusion to combat MFA by, partnering with Jones and layering that on top of our buys. But I think what we saw is there was actually an opportunity for us to like build that out a little bit and use like contextual or use additional partners to take a look at, at the URL level, where there were additional opportunities to align with our audiences in spaces that maybe we hadn't considered before.
Got it. Very interesting. All right, so this has been a whirlwind conversation. Where I want to end on is, in your conversations with brand leaders, is there a prevailing misconception that you keep encountering around the topic of brand safety and transparency that you want to set the record straight on?
There's 2. The first one is if you're using a third-party ad verification partner. It's a really long thing. I wish I could just say the names of the companies, but alas, here we are. So if you're using like monitoring or blocking tags across your whole digital buy, you can just set it and forget it, and you're totally fine. That's number 1. I hope nobody in this room actually believes that, but that is something that I've come across. The other one is that this is a problem that is exclusive to Open Exchange Programmatic, and that direct IOs or even publisher direct buys are completely exempt from brand safety problems. And it's absolutely not the case. I think the one thing with programmatic that you can't do in most other buying doors is you've got access to all of your campaign data, you've got log level data, you have the ability and the transparency and the expertise on the programmatic teams to actually pull the reports and find the trends. You have more control in this space than you do in other buying doors. And so your ability to identify that there is a problem, first and foremost, and then partner with different companies on trying to find solutions is unique, and I think potentially better positioned than other buying avenues that they may have for digital.
That's fascinating, that last one especially, because I can see how at surface value or surface level that a direct buy would appear to be more safe and more well understood.
A lot of dogs not barking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bite you in the ass, I think you said. Yep, gotcha. Okay, folks, we're going to turn it over to you for the questions that you have.
In the vein of no question is a dumb question, asking for a friend, what is a PMP?
Private marketplace. So a PMP is a private marketplace, a little line of code that you plug into the demand side platform when you're setting up a campaign, and it allows you to bid on either a site or a curated list of sites that aligns with what you want to do for a campaign.
The friend she was asking for was me. It wasn't Kate.
Oh.
Hi. So one of the best parts about programmatic is the amount of options that we have from across the board, from publishers to data and everything in between. When it comes to brand safety, what advice would you give to assess a brand safety partner? And like what sort of qualities would you look for in a particular partner that would like stand out, or something that you would want to work for or work with?
I'll speak to programmatic specifically. I think it's important to have, obviously, the conversations with your SSP partners and your DSP partners. You're going to need different approaches to brand safety for each format and channel you're actually working with. So YouTube, for example, you might take a different approach or leverage a different set of partners than you would for maybe the rest of your programmatic buy. For programmatic campaigns, if we're thinking about monitoring, blocking, things that get trafficked with the tags, I really like that some of the main third-party verification partners have dashboards where you can go in and look at at the placement level, where there are issues within the buy. I think that helps diagnose it. When you don't have access to that kind of information, it can make it really difficult to diagnose where problems are actually popping up or what the cause of them is. When I'm talking to inventory partners and DSPs, I really like it when they tell me who they're partnering with, what's on the roadmap, and like what some of the challenges are that they're trying to solve for. I want them to bring me into the conversation, because it's a space that's rapidly evolving. I don't think anybody has really cracked the code on like how to fix it quite yet. There's some really good, effective things that have been put into place, but if they're willing to kind of bring you in to that conversation, it's a really great sign. And then also access to reporting data and information. So if, like, let's say you have a managed service buy that you have to do in conjunction with whatever you're doing in the platform, and having like access to super granular URL level data. Don't give me top whatever sites. No, please, Lord, no. Just give me everything. I want to see everything you're buying. That's also another thing I think is just super important. Oh, hey.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Evan from Horizon. I really liked what you were talking about when it came to the exclusion lists and how it's not proactive, it's very reactive. So there's a lot of gaps that can be, and that led you in the direction of inclusion lists. So I'm wondering if the next step and evolution you guys are looking at is in supply curation.
Supply curation's is another thing that we do. It's something that we've been doing for many, many, many years now, and I think brand safety and the different partners that we work with, there's a lot of parallels to the SPO conversation and the brand safety conversation. I'm really glad that you brought that up, actually. Another thing that we're doing is, what I love about DSPs is they have a lot of really cool like inventory optimization or prioritization tools that you can turn on the platform. Two specifically that I'm thinking about, but I was going to say a lot of DSPs, but actually no, there's really just one that does this, but I can't name drop them. But yeah, like you have the ability to lean into some of the tools that they have to filter out things that might have like certain format sizes, or filter out certain things in the bid stream that might indicate that ad call might be on like a low quality site or something that you want to avoid. So giving those brand safety definitions and priorities to the DSPs when we're working through those like SPO rules in the platform is another thing that's kind of like ongoing on our team.
All right, Jennifer, thank you so much.
Okay.